Hey everyone, Mo here, and before the video begins, I just want to let you guys know that my schedule has opened up for me to do coaching again. So if you're interested in private one-on-one coaching for me to help you, whether you're a newer player and you want to excel at the game very quickly and learn the fundamentals without developing any bad habits early, or if you're an experienced player who's already maybe platinum or diamond and you're top 1%, but you need some help filling in the gap to get you to that 0.01%, to make you just some of the best, then hit me up on Discord and I can get you in some private one-on-one coaching lessons to help you polish up any skills you want to refine and help you learn all of the secrets to becoming a top player. That's it. I hope you enjoy the video. Hey everybody, Mo here, and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys the 5 decks I'm most excited to try and play in the new Shurima Expansion and Legends of Runeterra. I don't remember what this exact expansion is called, but anyways, I know that a lot of people are going to be excited to play a bunch of new decks and new cards. They're going to be wondering what deck can I play with my new champion that came out, stuff like that, my favorite champion. So I went ahead here and made 5 decks that I believe I use every single new champion in these decks. So I think except for Jarvan, but that's because I don't really know how to play Jarvan. And I wouldn't really know, I didn't have an idea of what to put him in other than just something very basic like Mono Bannerman or something like that. So aside from Jarvan, I have every other champion here in one of these 5 decks, so that way you can, if your favorite champion isn't Jarvan, you have some decks to use from. So these are going to be decks that I'm excited to play, and these are the decks I'm going to be playing on day 1 and day 2. For those of you who don't know, I do stream, so I'll be streaming Wednesday night and Thursday over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/emotional. The link will be in the description below. And let's, before we start with the video, I wanted to remind you guys that 80% of the people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to me. That's pretty awesome because it was 86%, but now it's down to only 80% of the people that watch my videos aren't subs. But that's still a lot of people. So if you guys could do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button, it helps me out so much with the YouTube algorithm. It's free, easy, and if you change your mind later, you can always just unsubscribe with no hassle. So that's it for the intro. Let's get into the 5 decks that you should play for the new Shurima expansion. So deck number 1 that I made here, and this is just very simple. This is my take on Mono Shurima. So this is like your Sun Disc. Originally, I wasn't actually gonna make a Sun Disc deck, but because Azir looks so good, and Azir's level 3 alone looks extremely good, I think getting a Sun Disc is worth it. Now, I'm only gonna play 1 Sun Disc. I think playing more than 1 Sun Disc is kind of trolly, because you're guaranteed to get Sun Disc in your opening hand. And then if your opponent is playing a whole bunch of landmark removals anyways, you end up just killing them with your level 2, or you just kill them with like your good Shurima units. So you don't even really need it. It's just that if you do end up getting this really sick curve that we're going to talk about here, where you end up getting your level 3 ascended champions on turn, I think it's turn 7, you have all your champions level 3, then that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and get in. So this deck plays 3 Azir, 2 Renekton, 1 Nasus. I placed 1 Nasus. Nasus isn't the greatest, but because you have so many big units, if your opponent ever blocks one of your units and dies, that counts as a slay trigger. So because your units are really good in combat, and you are playing Shapestone and Ruthless Predator, and these like Sand Soldiers and stuff like that, a lot of times they will be chump blocking with units, or you eventually whittle them down to where they block units, and then you just get good Nasus. And then on top of getting good Nasus, you get level 3 Nasus from like Sun Disc and level 2 Nasus. You just get a big ass 10/10 with Spell Shield, which is like really, really good, obviously. Same with Renekton. Renekton is just a more generally good unit with Overwhelm and very nice stat line. And it gets bigger whenever you get to challenge something. That means if you give it vulnerable. Yeah, so that's what each champion is in here for. So we'll go over the landmarks. Of course, you play 1 Sun Disc. I already went over this. And then we played 3 Preservarium. That's just because this card is 2 mana draw a card at the worst, which is really good. The potential for 2 mana to draw 2 cards, which is really good. Most of the time, I'm playing this card on turn 3. And then I play this card on turn 3 or turn 2. And then you just go ahead and blow it up with Desert Naturalist. Because I believe Preservarium countdowns at the end of turn. If I'm wrong, then you have to play Preservarium on 3, and then you go Preservarium on turn 3, Desert Naturalist on turn 4, and then you just spend 4 mana to get, a 5/4 and a 2/4 of stats, which is really, really good. Now we'll get into the units. And then also, if you can't do that combo, 2 mana draw 2 is just good. So now we'll get into the units. Dune Keepers, best 1-drop in the game. I'll say this over and over again. It's Decimate on turn 1. Chronomancer, we use the predict keyword here just to have more consistent draws. Rockhopper, because 2-mana 3/1 is really nice at both attacking and blocking, and then getting a free rolling stance on top of that is just super good. It gives things vulnerable, which pair well with your like Renekton and your Renekton and your other overall units. And then we play Xenotype Researchers just to make your units bigger. This is a really good value engine. I play Desert Naturalist because, like I said, you know, you get Grumpy Rock Bear. And I play some Golden Ambassador. One card that's not in this deck, that is the 6/4 Overwhelm Spell Shield card. And you can very easily put that in the deck if you want to take out Dunekeeper. If you want to go not as low to the ground, because you are kind of playing Sundisk on 1 most of the time. But Dunekeeper is not bad if you want to be aggressive. But if it looks like you're not being aggressive and you really are going for this late game, for sure, just take out Dunekeeper and then put in the 6/4 Overwhelm Spell Shield, and that card could be really good against some control tech. As far as your spells go, oops, didn't mean to click on that. We're going to play 2 Spiritfire because it's really nice like pseudo board wipe and makes it easier for your units to attack and trade, and makes it get you some Slay triggers on Nasus. We're playing 1 Ascendant's Rise and then 3 of Arise to get just a bunch of Sand Soldiers. So the curve with this deck that's really nutty is you go Sundisk on 1, you pass on turn 2. You go Azir on 3, Renekton on 4, turn 5, Ascendant's Rise, and then turn 6 you win the game. Just because you get to level up all your level 1 Ascendant champions, that'll then level up your Buried Sundisk, your Sundisk will then level up your, the Azir and Renekton on the field to your level 3 versions, and you basically just win the game at that point, because you get the Azir deck, and you have this leveled up Renekton in play, and you're going to get like a leveled up Nasus in play. And so that curve is your like, I win the game on turn 6 curve, which is really nice. And even with that curve, you don't play Dunekeeper. So very much, you could take out Dunekeeper for the overall unit too, if you'd like. So that's for the Mono Shurima deck. Let's go to the next one. The next one is going to be Field of Mina. And this is the Lissandra deck, and it's very much like a... not very much of a Lissandra deck, it's more just like still Field of Mina, but you do get to play 1 of Lissandra to have a random win con in the Watcher. It's just a nice insurance card, like tertiary win condition. You get to play some of the 3 sisters, which is really nice. Ice Shard is really, really good. Ice Shard allowed Freljord to play a controlled deck really well outside of Shadow Isles. Before, Freljord kind of needed to be paired with Shadow Isles because Shadow Isles had all the removal that Freljord lacked, and now Ice Shard kind of deals with it. I mean, it's kind of like a miniature Withering Whale, right? Then you also get Blighted Ravine, which can be just a nice investment for an Avalanche. So you just play like Blighted Ravine, next turn, boom, you just kind of kill everything on Avalanche on the next turn. So it deals with open attacks very well, forces your opponents to develop, and then you can usually punish a development then with something like an Ice Quake or an Avalanche of your own, Avalanche them twice in the same turn. Outside of that, it's basically just Field of Mina. You play a bunch of ramp cards. You do play 3 sisters because you use everything in 3 sisters really well. Then we have, your Conch Palms Denies, 1 Homecoming, all the ramp, and then we play Field of Rush. So essentially Field of Mina, but with new tech cards and new nice support cards coming in from like Blighted Ravine, 3 sisters, and Lissandra is a nice tertiary win condition. Next deck we'll go over is a more aggro / mid-range version deck, but it's definitely more on the aggro side of a mid-range deck. That's Leblanc Sivir, and a lot of people think Leblanc is really bad. And the funny thing is I think Leblanc is actually a really like okay to good card. You just can't make a Leblanc deck. Leblanc was not made to be put in a Leblanc deck. She's very much a support card for another deck, whether that's Leblanc Ashe. So I saw a lot of people talking about Ashe Noxus, but instead of playing Ashe Sejuani, you now play Ashe Leblanc. That could be very possible. So instead of playing just like a hard LeBlanc aggro deck, you play more of like a Sivir style deck that tries to level up Sivir, and then you just have LeBlanc support, and LeBlanc can be nice to do Sivir. And so outside of that, you play these like aggro cards. You're like, okay, aggro turn 1, turn 2. You start getting your 5-power units on turn 2 with Glory Seeker, 5-power unit on turn 3 with Trifarian. By the time turn 5 comes around, you have Kato, Ruined Runner, all this good stuff. We play a couple Mites, we play a couple of Sharpened Resolves to make sure you hit for 5. And this is just a very nice and scary, like, Overwhelm deck that wins with, Sivir can be like a good win con for the late game if you don't rush them down. LeBlanc could potentially be a nice win con too if she levels up. This is just a very nice, like, standard unit aggro deck that plays both LeBlanc and Sivir. The next deck, and so these last 2 decks are actually the 2 decks I'm most excited for, and the 2 decks that I am really, really going to try and perfect. And I know a lot of people are looking at this deck specifically and going to try to perfect it. And that is Kindred PNZ. So a lot of you guys that are OGs know about this deck called Karina Control. This deck is basically Karina Control once you start looking at how it plays out. The difference is, this deck has a 50% chance to OTK your opponent on turn 9, meaning you win the game on turn 9. If you play concurrent timelines ever throughout the course of the game, and then on turn 9 you play a Ledros. Ledros has a 50% chance to turn into a Dreadway because of concurrent timelines. And the way that works is you play Ledros. The skill goes on the stack. So the deal half your enemy health, like Nexus health to them, goes on the stack as Ledros transforms into the Dreadway. And Dreadway says all of your skills, abilities, and, you know, like units and spells deal twice as much damage. You all know this meme combo. The meme combo is like, you know, you play Dreadway and then you just hard play Ledros and now you win on like turn 10 potentially. Well, this makes it to where you can play like an actually good deck and then still just run into that combo sometimes and OTK your opponent if they don't have an answer to Dreadway. Well, at the same time, playing stuff like, you know, Spirit Leech, which is a 4-mana 4-1 that looks really, really, like, that's awful stats for a 4-drop. But you get the play effect. So it's really 4 mana, come into play, kill something, draw 2, and then the actual card or stat line at that point doesn't really matter. It's pretty irrelevant because you can turn it into like a 4-3 at that point or something like that. Or, you know, a 7-7 if you high roll into something like a Crocodile. So imagine getting a 4-mana 7-7 draw 2. Like, that's pretty broken. So concurrent timelines could probably bring this deck back from the grave and make this deck actually playable, on top of course, Kindred being a really big star and a really big tempo swing. Kindred controls the game very, very well with her ability and with the Slay ability, being able to kill units with, like, Mystic Shot, Vile Feast, like, killing units and triggering Kindred's level up, or triggering her ability every single round is really, really big, and that's kind of what's missing from the, like, Kindred Endure style list, is that you can usually only trigger Slay every other turn when you're attacking. This allows you to trigger Slay all the time, obviously, with how many ways you're killing the units. So, this Ledros OTK, if you're a control style player, this is going to be your control deck to go to. That's probably going to be tier 1. And then the last deck that I'm the most excited for, you guys all know me. You know how much I love aggro decks. The deck I'm most excited for, that I'm going to be spamming on day 1, is going to be this Elise Azir aggro deck. Now, this deck looks omega degenerate. And I don't actually know, obviously you never know with any of these decks, how good these decks are going to be once, you know, people start figuring out the meta. But I promise you, early on in the meta, before people start figuring it out and figuring out what counters things and what getting refined list, this deck will smoke any non-refined list. You guys know all about, if you in Endure, you play Bark Beast on turn 1 and then Cursed Keeper Butcher on turn 2, and that was considered like the nut draw because you could deal 10 damage on turn 2. This deck can deal 11 damage on turn 2. This deck, with only 3 cards. So, with the still same amount of cards needed, you actually just do more damage than the already previous nut combo on turn 2. On top of that, you play Emperor, and the way you do that, by the way, I guess I should explain it, is you play Bark Beast on turn 1. And then, turn 2, you play Dune Keeper. And this only works if you're attacking on turn 2. If you're attacking on turn 2, you play Dune Keeper into Stygian Onlooker. Because the way it works, because Dune Keeper summons the Sand Soldier when it's summoned, it doesn't summon it when he attacks. That means that you can put the Sand Soldier as attacking first, so it'll die to Ephemeral before the Bark Beast strikes. So the Sand Soldier is 2 damage. Bark Beast is 3 damage, so that's 5. Dune Keeper is another 2 damage, that's 7. And then Stygian Onlooker is 4 damage because you activated Nightfall, and that's 11 total damage. So if you have Bark Beast on turn 1 and then Dune Keeper Stygian on turn 2, as long as you order it correctly, that's 11 damage on turn 2, which is absolutely crazy. Other than that, we're playing like Shark Chariots because Emperor Daze makes a 1/1 ephemeral attacking every single turn that you're attacking, which is really fucking good. So it brings back a Shark Chariot or multiple Shark Chariots. And then we're playing like Blighted Caretaker, Keeper, Butcher combo, stuff like that, because we are playing this 1-mana Bakai Reaper. And Bakai Reaper is a really, really strong unit if you can just casually activate Slay. And doing aggro decks like these, like going Bakai Reaper on 1 into Cursed Keeper Butcher on 2, like that's still a 3/7, that's still 9 damage turn 2. Which is not exactly the 10 damage, but essentially what happened with Shurima was it took these really aggressive, like, high roll draws from a deck like Endure, where you would play like Bark Beast, Keeper Butcher on 2, and that was like considered a nut draw. Well, all this did was just make it more consistent. So now instead of needing exactly Bark Beast, Keeper, Butcher on turn 2, you could have like a plethora of combos with that, and it still get between the 9 or 11 damage range on turn 2. So this is because of that made this deck have more nut draws, make the nut draws more consistent. And so you're consistently dealing 9 to 10 to 11 damage on turn 2, which is absolutely insane. So I'm super excited to play this deck tomorrow. This is the deck I'm going to be like one-tricking. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention you randomly play a 1 mana, give my unit +3 attack because they thought that card was balanced. And yeah, so I'm super excited for this deck. So that's the 5 decks that I'm looking forward to playing tomorrow. These are the 5 decks that I recommend anyone that wants to build decks on day 1 to build. I also like to put a disclaimer. If you are limited on your shards and stuff like that, don't build a deck day 1 because people don't actually know what's good day 1. So the disclaimer being, wait a couple days if you have the like self-control to do so, or maybe wait a week. Let the people figure out the meta for the first tournament or so. That's going to be coming this Saturday. And then take the decks that do well in those tournaments and then go ahead and make your deck that. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys do well with these decks. If you have any other deck ideas, leave them down in the comments below. Let me know what decks you guys are going to be trying, along with a link to your deck list that you guys are going to be trying when the patch drops tomorrow. So that's going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next video.